There is an absolutely beautiful table of food after service, so if you didn't get to hug everybody once or twice, then hug them again then and enjoy us for after service refreshments. Just a reminder that our checks now need to be written out fully, Center for Spiritual Living. So when you write that great, big, beautiful, wonderful check, Center for Spiritual Living. And I am your practitioner today. Sharon Whaley is also here. She is a practitioner, and we'd love to pray with you after service right up here in front. If you have something on your heart you'd like to have prayer for, or just some joyous news, we like to hear that too. So join us for that. And now I'd like you to join me for our opening spiritual mind treatment. I love to take that deep breath as a reminder that that is the breath of God. That as we breathe in the love of God. We breathe in peace and joy and happiness. Every breath we take, we make that conscious intention to breathe in all good, all love, all joy. We are so blessed to be in a spiritual center where we know that God is for us and nothing is against us. And that's what we remember today. The absolute peace and joy that is ours always. And as we come together in this spiritual community, we build that awareness within ourselves. We become more of all that God intended us to be. We become more peace, more happiness, more fulfilled in our lives, in our relationships, in all that we do, in our abundance, in our health and wholeness. We come together to remember that more fully and completely. And I know this service today helps us do that with the beautiful musicians that we have. Merritt playing the piano, Parisi in the sound room, Dar helping us out with the songs, and our guest musicians today that you're just going to love, our CSL singers. And I'm so very grateful for Reverend Gregory this morning as he has traveled from Colorado to be here with us. We are so blessed to have his wisdom, his love, his allness celebrating with us today. Very grateful for all of our volunteers, all those who have been stepping up and all those who have yet to step up. I know that as they feel called, they will be blessed by their acts of service. Grateful for our wonderful refreshments after service, and grateful for each and every person that came through those doors this morning. Grateful for all those who are watching us online, feeling and knowing and being here with us in spirit. So it's with gratitude that I simply let this prayer time go, knowing that the answer has already been given to everything that we could ever ask for. And I simply let it be. And together we anchor that by saying, and so it is. Thank you. So we are blessed, like I said in the prayer, by our CSL singers this morning. So we got 5 beautiful ladies coming forward.
The song is called Om Shanti by Ricky Byers, and it means peace.
Om Shanti, Om
Shanti, Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, Om Shanti. Peace inside my mind, God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my mind, God and only God I live to see. Peace inside my mind, God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my mind, God and only God I live to see. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, 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 Om Shanti, Om. Peace inside my heart, God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my heart, God and only God I live to see. Peace inside my heart, God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my heart, God and only God I live to see. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, 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 Om Shanti, Om. Peace inside the earth, God and only God is moving me. Peace inside the earth, God and only God I live to see. Peace inside the earth, God and only God is moving me. Peace inside the earth, God and only God I live to see. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, 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 Om. Thank you, Serenity, Melody, Sharon, Dara, and Lori, our CSL singers. We are so blessed. And it is my blessing now to have you help me welcome Reverend Gregory Toole. He was our interim minister for a year and a half, back about a year and a half ago. So a lot of us got very familiar with him. We know him, we love him, and we're just so excited to welcome him back with us today. He is a blessing to this center. Help me welcome him.
Thank you and good morning. And how good it is to be back here with all of you. I was sitting back enjoying the singers so much that I didn't even realize I was about to get up and talk. I had to ask Ann. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm about to get up. Yes, thank you all for those beautiful voices that were serenading us this morning. Well, and thank you all for keeping the vibrancy of this community, this 70-year-old community that just celebrated 70 years, but 70 years young, really, because this is like a new day of something new wanting to be birthed here. And thank you all for being part of that newness and seeing and feeling the vision and just listening to these singers serenading us. To me, represented newness to me. It represented what's possible here, that people right from the congregation, are any of you professional singers? Maybe maybe some of you are. None of you are professional singers. Isn't that beautiful that you stood up here and just sang so beautifully? The topic today is it possible to create a world that works for everyone? And that comes from the global CSL vision, Center for Spiritual Living vision, which is a world that works for everyone. I'll give a spoiler alert in terms of the answer to that question. Is it possible to create a world that works for everyone? Spoiler alert, my answer is yes, it is possible, just in case you were wondering. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, said that someone has said that the entire world is suffering from one big fear. The fear that God will not answer our prayers. The fear of lack is nothing more than the belief that God does not and will not supply us with whatever we need. The fear of death is the belief that the promises of eternal life may not be true. The fear of loss of health, loss of friends, loss of property, all arise from the belief that God is not all that we claim. Omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence. Isn't that interesting? I think about that sometimes myself in, how's the mic? How are we doing on the sound here? Sound is good? Sounds good? Okay. I think about that myself sometimes. Do I really believe what we teach? You know, especially when we get in the trenches or when we get in those difficult circumstances of life. It's like, is God still God? Is there still that infinite power within me? Is there still that infinite presence, that infinite life? And I'm discovering over and over again, I love that I've been in this teaching for about 25 years now. And I love that it's still so fresh to me. It's as fresh as it was the first day I walked in, because I'm always on that leading edge of my own growth, of stepping into this idea that there is a power, an infinite power, presence, wisdom, intelligence, love within me and within all that is. And that all is well and all is always in divine order. And day by day, I keep discovering over and over again how true this is. Anyone ever have those situations where you get worried? Anyone in here ever worry about anything? You know, how is this going to turn out? Where's God now? And for me, as I go through all of those types of situations over and over and over again, it's like, wow, can I just trust right from the beginning that all is well? Can I trust right from the beginning that there is divine order? Can I trust right from the beginning that my needs will be met? As the scripture said, take no thought for what you shall eat or what you shall wear. Your Father in heaven, your Mother in heaven, the divine presence knows what you need, knows what I need. That there is this infinite intelligence, there is this infinite love moving through us, as us, and all around us. So what does it mean, a world that works for everyone? Well, it's a pretty big vision. And some of the ideas that came to me were that it means that we'd all be living in peace with all the food that we need, all the shelter that we need, and that we could all be living with a sense of dignity, a sense of value, a sense that we are honored, a sense that we are seen for the sacred beings that we are. In the Science of Mind textbook, it says, Ernest Holmes said, the world has learned all it should through suffering. So this whole idea that we have to suffer because we have to learn things, we have to learn some lessons. There was a minister, Reverend Joan McKenna, she's since made her transition, but she said something probably about 15 or 20 years ago that really stuck with me, because she said, we're not here to learn lessons. And I thought, we're not here to learn lessons, really? Because that's what we talk about all the time in many different spiritual circles, right? Well, we're here to learn a lesson. I learned this lesson from this thing. I had to go through this difficult circumstance to learn a lesson. And she said, we're not here to learn lessons. And I had to really contemplate that for a little bit. We're not here to learn lessons. What we're here for, I get now what she was saying, is we're here to simply embody what we already are. We're simply, how can I step more fully into my oneness with divinity, my oneness with infinite love, my oneness with infinite intelligence, infinite power. No lesson to be learned. The lesson is that already. And ours is just to see how we can step into that more fully. There's one of our core concepts in Science of Mind that comes under the title of What We Believe from Ernest Holmes says, we believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Freedom from discord of every nature, and this goal is to be attained by all. One of my fellow students in ministerial school, who now for years has been the dean of the ministerial school and is actually the president of what we call Holmes Institute right now, Dr. Kim Kaiser, he and I would always have these discussions while we were in ministerial school. We'd be going to lunch and we would drive to lunch and we'd be having all these really deep conversations. But just maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was staying at he and Joyce's home, his wife Joyce's home, and Kim and I were having another one of these conversations, and we started talking about this core concept that I just mentioned. And Dr. Kim said, I think Ernest Holmes meant that literally. And I began to debate him because I thought, I was kind of coming back to some of the old beliefs about lessons and the old beliefs about, hey, some of my most difficult times have been some of the greatest learnings for me and all of that. And he said, no, I think Ernest Holmes really meant that our ultimate goal is to be free from all discord of every nature. And so it's this question that we get to live in, I think. Do we really need to create challenges for ourselves? Ernest Holmes said, the world has learned all it should through suffering. So it's a question, and I don't necessarily have the answer, but it's a question, I think, for us to live in. Do we really need to create challenges and problems for ourselves in order to evolve and grow spiritually? Or could we live in harmony? Could we learn to live in harmony? Could we learn to live in such a way, in such an alignment with the truth of who we are, that there would be no need to create problems, challenges. There would be no need to create discord just so we could evolve. What do you think of that? Somebody says, I'll buy a ticket to that show, right? I want a part of that. Yeah. This book, Conscious Loving, which, by the way, thank you all. I think I thanked you last time I was here because that class, I developed a class around the book called Conscious Loving by Gay and Katie Hendricks, and that was developed as a result of working with this community and with people in this community asking for it. And in that book, they talk about this concept called upper limits. And upper limits are essentially when life gets to be so good that we can't stand it anymore. It's just too darn good. And so unconsciously, until we grasp this and become aware of this consciously, unconsciously we create problems in order to bring ourselves down. It's like it's just too good. It's not a conscious thing, because consciously, of course, we'd be like, oh, well, it could never be too good. Bring it on. Bring me more good. But we've lived in a world for so long where we have accepted that there must be suffering. There must be challenges. There must be, we just accept that almost as a reality. You know, if like we were advising a young person, right? And they said, oh, we say, oh, life just has challenges. Right? How many of us have ever done that, right? Life just has challenges. There'll be ups, there'll be downs. The question today, though, is that really true? We've bought into it for a very long time throughout human history, maybe. But is that really true? If we look at this upper limits concept that the Hendricks put forth, that might suggest that unconsciously, collectively, we create challenges unconsciously because we're still bought into that challenges are a part of life. Problems are a part of life. Issues are a part of life. But today I challenge that. I question that. Is that really true? Is that really true? And in my life, the more and more and more conscious I become, and the more that I don't need to have problems and challenges in order to evolve, the less and less I experience challenges and problems. And even when something does look like a challenge or a problem, if I can just get myself to the place of realizing even there is harmony, that this is not a problem. This is not really a problem. I'm perceiving it as a problem. But in a world, in a universe, in a spiritual universe where all is always in divine order and divine harmony always exists, how could there actually be a problem? That's a question for us to live with. It's a question I'm living with right now. I'm not necessarily ready to jump to a conclusion yet on that. But the more and more I challenge that and the more I question that, the more and more I start to lean into the possibility that we don't need to have problems. We don't need to have challenges. Life doesn't have to be that way. But I'm still in that question, and I invite you into that question today. One of the things with this upper limits thing that I've pondered with conscious loving is this idea of self-sabotage, which I'm a very rational and practical and pragmatic person. So I would never, ever think that I would ever sabotage myself in any way whatsoever, because that would be so irrational to do. But of course, none of us would sabotage, well, I shouldn't say none of us. Some people might choose to do that. But most of us would not sabotage ourselves consciously. It would be an unconscious pattern that would show up. Well, when I look back at certain situations in my life that I had just kind of thought things just didn't work out in that situation, I really began to see where at times I unconsciously sabotaged myself. And I was quite embarrassed, even though I wasn't even telling anyone else, just to have the thought myself. I was quite embarrassed right there with myself, looking in the mirror. Like, what? You would do that? Because I saw one person I knew in a job situation, and right before he was about to get a big promotion, it was all set. It was all ready to go. And he did the wildest thing that you couldn't even imagine a person would do, and derailed the promotion. And it was so clear that it was self-sabotage. And I was so clear that I would never do anything like self-sabotage. And I thought, wow, how could this person do such a thing right before they're going to get a big promotion? And while I've never had anything as dramatic as that, I did look back at my life and say, wow, how many times unconsciously did I sabotage myself? So in this question of, is it possible to create a world that works for everyone, we have to deal with this question. We have to deal with this thing of what is it that creates the problems in the world? The problem of hunger, let's say. Is there really a problem of not enough food? I was just reading that in the U.S., in 2010, and I'm sure it hasn't changed all that much in 2020, that there was a study that showed that Americans basically throw away 30 to 40% of our food supply. So is there really a problem with not enough food? It's a problem that's already, really, the solution is already there because there's already enough food to feed every person. No one would need to be hungry whatsoever. And then we have this other principle, and I'm going to read it to you exactly because I like the exact wording. It's another one of our core concepts in Science of Mind that says, spirit is a transcendent, perfect whole that contains and embraces all seeming opposites. So spirit is this infinite wholeness that embraces all seeming opposites, and the word seeming is really key in there. Because we wonder, well, what about this and what about that? And how would this work and how would that work? And how would this get reconciled with this other thing? And if we were to help this over here, how would we do that? And we see that in politics, right? In politics, they're all debating, no, this won't work, that won't work, because if you do this over here, there won't be enough money for this over here. And if you put money in this, then there won't be enough. But spirit is an infinite wholeness that embraces all seeming opposites. And where we get caught up humanly is that we can't grasp at times infinity. Infinite. But here's an example where maybe we can get a picture of it. In my body right now, there are 30 to 40 trillion cells. I did say trillion. 30 to 40 trillion cells in my body right now, all cooperating with one another, all working together for me to be up here giving this talk right now. There's none of my cells that are like sabotaging me for giving this talk. Now, a trillion is 1,000 billion. A trillion is 1,000 times a billion, and a billion is 1,000 times a million. That's a lot of cells. And guess what? I'm not managing a single one of them. Infinite intelligence right now is managing and coordinating 30 to 40 trillion cells right now, just right here. Now, let's consider that you, by the way, I'm not a superhero. You all also have 30 to 40 trillion cells in your body right now that are all being totally managed, coordinated, worked by this infinite intelligence. Each one of us, 30 to 40 trillion cells right now, and then multiply that out, if you can do that kind of math, by the 7+ billion, 8 billion, however many people are on the planet right now. All of that is taking place. Now, there are some people that have control issues, so there might be someone who says, no, I am managing all 30 to 40 trillion of my cells right now. Thank you very much. I am in control of each one. I know where every one of them is, what they're doing. I'm managing it. But most of us, if not all of us, are not doing anything to manage those 30 to 40 trillion cells that are coordinating everything that allows for digestion, it allows for thought processes to happen, it allows for everything, the circulation of our blood, the beating of our heart, the regeneration of cells. 30 to 40 trillion cells in each of us, and none of us controlling any of that. To me, that's an example of what infinite intelligence can do. Now, if you and I, humanly, had to manage 30 to 40 trillion of anything, right? Usually we say we can manage about 7 things at a time, right? If you're a manager, you can manage about 7 things, maybe 7 people, 7 projects, or if you're really good, maybe you can do 20 or 30. But now we're talking 30 to 40 trillion. that's what infinite intelligence can do. So when we think about, can we create a world that works for everyone, we have to step into the awareness of what infinite can do, what infinite intelligence can do, what infinite power can do, what infinite love can do. We have to step away from our sense of finiteness, limitation. I was reminded of when President John F. Kennedy had the vision of putting a man on the moon or a person on the moon. And it's so interesting. He gave this speech at Rice University on September 12th in 1962, and one little segment of that was he says, we choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they're easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win. And I think one of the most beautiful aspects of that was that when he cast that vision, and when he said we will do this by the end of the decade, which happened, a lot of the technologies necessary to do it did not exist. The technologies did not exist. The materials. He was like, we don't even have the composite materials that would allow a ship to travel out there and not burn up in space on re-entry to the atmosphere. It doesn't even exist. But I have this vision that that's what we'll do. It's a reliance on infinite intelligence and infinite creativity. It's like, can we create win-win, right? We probably have all seen situations where, maybe even in this spiritual community, situations where one person or one group thinks we ought to do one thing, and another person, another group thinks we ought to do another thing. I'm sure that's never happened to any of you or in this community or anything like that. Probably sounds like a very foreign situation. Never heard of it. What are you talking about? Does that happen out there in the world? Because it certainly doesn't happen here in Bakersfield. And we say, well, how do you resolve something like that? Okay, Reverend Gregory, okay, you believe in a world that works for everyone? Okay. Then, someone I'm sure will stop me at the door later and say, okay, well, then how do you resolve that? We had a situation right here. How do you resolve that, Reverend Gregory? You're talking about a whole world that works for everyone. How do you solve that right here in a community right here? One group thinks we ought to do this. One group thinks we ought to do that. How do you solve that? Infinite intelligence. Not finite intelligence. I can't solve that with finite intelligence. I can't just sit down with a pen and paper and go, okay, here's the answer. I'm write it down on a piece of paper. Here you go, Lori. Here's the answer on this little piece of paper. When you feel the community's ready, you can share it with them, okay? Here's the answer. Like when we were at the community meeting last time I was here, it's like a question, well, should we sell the building or should we stay here? All right, write this down. Here you go, Lori. Here's the answer. That's finite intelligence. Infinite intelligence would be to step into, I don't know. Where we get into finite intelligence is there are some people who think they already know. Once you have people who think they already know, you're in finite intelligence. But when you enter into, like when Kennedy said, we don't even have the materials yet to do this. We have a vision of landing a person on the moon, but we don't even have the materials. We don't even know we don't even have the technologies to do this. So we enter into the not knowing. And for me, what it becomes is it becomes a creativity challenge. Now, rather than an oppositional challenge of do I get my way or does Lori get her way, or does Sharon get her way because she has a whole different idea? No, it becomes, how do we sit on the same side of the table and put infinite creativity to work for us? And allow infinite creativity to unfold through us where we don't know how it's going to turn out. What we know is that we have access to infinite creativity. When we did, some of you know that there used to be 2 organizations for science of mind, religious science. There were 2 basic centers for spiritual living organizations that essentially split off from one, right? So when Ernest Holmes, our founder, created this organization and we were going forward, and about 50 plus, 60 or so years ago, there was a split. There was a disagreement as to how things ought to be done, and the 2 organizations split apart. And for about 50 years, they remained separate, teaching the same exact philosophy, having the same exact types of centers, but 2 different bodies, 2 different organizations. And every time we would teach a foundational class, the beginning class of Science of Mind, students would say, well, wait, this philosophy teaches oneness. Why are there 2 different organizations? And as the teachers, we never really had a good answer for that. So finally we said, you know what, this is silly. 50 plus years is long enough. We need to bring these 2 back together, which is kind of unheard of for religious denominations, right? Usually there's a split, but you never hear about them coming back together. You just see the history of the split. Well, we did that. And in order to do that, we had to lean into infinite creativity. We had to lean into infinity because guess what? The same issues, problems, viewpoints that created the split still existed 50 years later. No one really had changed their mind. Everyone still thought, yeah, this is the best way to do it. This is why we're doing it this way. I, in particular, was assigned the area, education, that was thought to be impossible or likely to be impossible to bring together. That was an area that the 2 different organizations, the way they taught classes was totally different. The way they licensed and trained ministers was totally different. The way they licensed and trained practitioners was totally different. So I was given the task, only because that was my area of responsibility, to bring together the 2 different ways, very different ways, that the 2 organizations did education and solve that problem. And there was no way to solve it at the level of the problem. There was no way to solve it by sitting down and saying, this is the answer. So we had to step back from all of that. And we had to really look at what's important to each person here. What do we value? Not what are the forms, but what do we value in our hearts, in our being? What do we value? In getting at that level of letting go of forms, letting go of the way things appear, and surrendering into, I have no idea how this could possibly come together. I have no idea how it would be possible for you to get what you need, which seems on the appearance level to be the exact opposite of what I need. I have no idea how you could get what you need and I could get what I need when it appears that those 2 are opposite. However, I am so surrendered to this higher idea, this higher vision, that it would be better and it would serve the world in a much greater way if there were one body of centers for spiritual living instead of 2, and that we were all working together. So that higher vision drove us to allow us to surrender, and what we began to call the third way. Is there a third way? There's this way and there's this way, but is there a third way? And we just surrendered into what would be a third way that would honor what you value and what's important to you, would honor what I value and what's important to me, but would probably look very different than what either of us are doing right now. And we got there. We got there through just continuously surrendering and opening and opening and opening and allowing ourselves to be a vehicle or a vessel through which infinite creativity was working. In all of this is real hope for our world, by the way. Because the things that we think, wow, we could never come to agreement on, right in our spiritual community, but also in the world, if we can let go of our attachment to specific forms, specific ways that it needs to look, get to what are our common human values, and then allow infinite creativity to reveal solutions to us that we never ever thought of before. Not only have we never thought of before, but they wouldn't even be accessible by us. The things that would be revealed by infinite creativity would not even be accessible to us when we're attached to particular forms and particular ways that things have to be. We would not have the key to that door until we were able to let go of the specific forms that we have in mind as to how it's supposed to be. But the moment we would surrender and open ourselves up to, I don't know. Sometimes that can be the hardest thing for humans. I don't know. We want to know, right? But so often we're holding on to something so small, and if we would just let go of that small vision, it would open us up to such a infinite vision that we could never imagine by holding on to that smaller, finite vision. We can create a world that works for everyone. So to summarize what I've just shared with you, in terms of how do we do this? How do we create a world that works for everyone? How do we create a spiritual community that works for everyone? We move out of the belief first in lack and limitation. We move out of our finite, small sense of things. We let go of attachment to particular forms, like it has to be this way or this way, and there's no other possibility. We let go of that. And they say, well, then what would there be left? What other choices would there be? Well, we don't know. Until we let go of attachment to the specific ideas that we think of how it ought to be. We open up to the possibility, just the possibility, that everyone's needs could be met. How many of you know the power of opening up to a possibility that you never considered before, and not even doing anything, but just saying, I'm open, I have no idea how, but I'm open to a different possibility. So we open to a new possibility, and then we surrender ourselves to be the vehicle through which infinite creativity works. That surrender place can be very scary, which is why a lot of us don't go there. The control place feels much safer. I'm in control. I have my opinion. I'm fighting for my opinion. I'm in control. You know, that's okay. It's not as scary as it is to say, I have no idea. And we surrender into that space where we're just such an open vehicle, where it feels like we're not in control anymore. But the reality is, when we feel like we're having to let go of control, what are we really letting go of? When we think we have to, I'm giving up control, I'm letting go of control, what are we really giving up? Who knows the answer to that? Fear, exactly. We're giving up fear, and ultimately we're giving up the illusion that we were ever in control in the first place. It's like, hey, I took a big step. I let go of being in control. Well, you let go of your illusion that you were in control. So we let go and we surrender and we allow ourselves to be used. We allow ourselves to be a vehicle for a solution to emerge. In this very surrendered place where we're not attached to an opinion, we're not attached to a particular way, we're open to the highest way. One time the phrase came to me that said, instead of my way or the highway, my way or the highest way. And then finally, we would have to be courageous enough to do what infinite wisdom reveals, which might take us into new territory, which might take us into territory that's not the way I thought it was going to be, it's not the way you thought it was going to be, but it's this whole new way that we're going. So I invite us into this today. I invite us into this place of surrender for this community, but also for our world. This is really this is the way that transcends so much of what we label as problems and challenges in our world. It's to let go of the idea that we know and to open up to the possibilities that want to unfold to create a world that none of us have even seen yet or even imagined. But when we let go of it has to be this way or this way, that possibility opens itself to us. And that's the invitation today, to live in that question. A couple questions I'm leaving you with to live with today. One is, are problems necessary? Are problems necessary? Are problems just a part of life? It's just a part of life, young man. Grow up. Are problems necessary? And the second question is, what would the world look like? What could the world possibly be? What could my life possibly be if I let go of all my attachments to what I think it ought to be, and when I surrendered to the highest possibility? If I were to ask myself, what is the highest possibility for my life? What is the highest possibility for the spiritual community? What is the highest possibility for our world? And then I just open myself to that without needing to figure it out right away or have an answer immediately follow it. And could I live in that question? Thank you. Let's take this into prayer. And so we turn within, knowing this powerful truth that God is, that there is an infinite power, an infinite presence, an infinite love, an infinite creativity. And this one power and presence is all that there is. There's just one life, one mind, one infinite presence, one infinite activity that is moving in, through, and as all that is. It is my very life. It is the life of each person here. It is the life of each person that concerns each person here. And so in this consciousness of our oneness with the infinite, I speak this word right now and I declare and know that we absolutely are empowered to live in this open space of possibility. This open space of where problems may not be necessary. This open space of where I don't need to have all the answers. And we're just such an open vessel for all kinds of new inventions, all kinds of new solutions, all kinds of new perspectives to come forth by letting go of that which we hold on to as so dear. And I know that as we are surrendering into this place, great things are happening in our lives because we have freed ourselves from limitation and we have opened the door to infinite possibilities for ourselves, for our community, for our world. For this awareness, I am so grateful. For this possibility, I am so grateful. For all the good that is right now flowing from all of this, I am so grateful. and in knowing that all is well. I release this words, that immutable law, I let it be, and I invite each one to ground and accept it with me if you choose, with the words, and so it is. Amen. And we'll welcome back our singers. Mommy duties. And as our conscious giving statement appears on the screen there, we shall read it together. Voila, there it is. There's an act of trust right there, right? All right, let us say this together. Divine love blesses this gift. It is circulated with love and is returned to me pressed down and overflowing. I am a happy giver and a grateful receiver. Our center is blessed, and so it is. I am so Thank you. And do we have Scott Tobias out there to give us our announcements? Come on up, Scott. This is our board president. Let's give Scott a hand. The boards is a really great place to really embody the teaching, because you got to deal with real stuff. It's not theory anymore when you're on the board.
Whew, have too many jobs here. Okay. Any newcomers today? If there are, we have packets in the back. Just grab one, and it'll tell you all about what we're doing here at this community. Roof sponsorships. So we've had some sponsors already. Thank you very much. We have 3 levels. Platinum 1,000, gold is 500, silver is 250. Oh, so there's 4, and then you could do 100 for bronze. Book and yard sales. So I've got several things to read about this. So we are having a book and yard sale on May 2nd and 3rd, and we're asking our members and friends to donate items that they no longer need or use. And types of donations would be gently used clothes, blankets, and linens, accessories, purses, shoes, costume jewelry, housewares, tools, safe toys, working electronics, furniture, books, art supplies, garden accessories. Janet is Shaw, my sister, is chairman of this. And if you are interested to be on the book or yard sale committee, please stay after church today and find out how you can help. Also, her husband, Scott Shaw, has a truck, and he is willing to pick up items. So if you've got something that is heavy and you can't get it down here, we can make arrangements for that. Okay? I think this is going to be a smashing success. I really do. All right, what else do we have? Annual membership meeting is March 22nd here, and we have a lot of exciting announcements to make at the membership meeting, so I hope you will attend. We are still looking for potential board of trustee members, and we've already got a couple. I'm excited about that are going to apply. Bookstore. Check out bookstores with some great books, and we have some discounts there. And what have I missed? Is that it? The what? Oh, yes, we have. Yeah, I thought I mentioned that, but we have raised. Yes, and Melody, thank you. I knew I was forgetting something.
Hello. So, my question right now is, does anybody here like to dance? Oh, awesome. Okay, great. So, there's something that I want to introduce here to the center, and it is a dance. It's called ecstatic dance. I go to LA quite regularly to experience this dance. I love it. And so I'm at a point now where I don't want to have to go to LA. I want to be here and dance. So some things that are special about ecstatic dance is it has these guidelines, and it's family friendly, and so your child can come, you can come, grandparents can come. It's really for all ages. But some of the guidelines about the dance is there's no shoes on the dance floor. And this would be our dance floor. This would be like our dance temple, as I see it. There's no talking on the dance floor. So you really get to be inside. You get to really dance what your body is feeling and reconnect with your spirits. There's some friends I've introduced it to, and they've all loved it. Some people have even been brought to tears just from that experience alone of the no talking and the moving and the music. It's also like a substance-free zone, so there's no bar or anything else encouraged. It's really like a clean environment. And no shoes, no talking, no substance. Family friendly. Thank you. So there are some dances that we that are set for April and in May, and maybe some pop-up dances just starting even this month. There'll be shorter versions, but something where we can just all kind of get familiar where I'm getting familiar, kind of running the space, running the circle, and then the DJs will also get some little training in too for the dance. So if anyone is interested in maybe helping or would like to hear more about the full vision I have, I'll be over there by the table. You can talk to me. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Melody. Well, let us create a circle around the sanctuary with our closing song. And if you're willing, I invite you to repeat after me. I am open to new possibility. I am a vehicle for infinite creativity to express. My life is unfolding in amazing ways. I say yes to it all. And so it is.